but I had this total like I was like at a Disney movie, like this aha, like I felt so good, even though I was so tired. I was so happy and I felt so fulfilled, and everything was in its place. And I just kept staring at my closet and was like, it's so pretty. And I just knew that I could do this for other people.
Welcome to Talk Clutter to Me. As always, I am Amanda, the Clutter Master and your host. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Kim from Lock and Key Home Organizing. Welcome, Kim. I am so excited to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be with you.
So, for those of you who may not know, me and Kim met at the Organizers Collective in the spring down in Georgia. And we had an amazing time getting to know each other. We talked all things organizing business, and we really got a chance to connect. And we've stayed pretty well in touch since. And I'm so happy to have you as an organizing friend. Oh,
You are my technology guru, so I'm always glad to stay in touch. I don't know what I would do without you some days.
oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. It was so funny, actually. Is I was just on a Melanie Summers podcast, I Speak Organize. That podcast episode should be coming out soon, but we were talking all about standard operating procedures because she's like, Amanda, you are just so technically mine's like that's how my brain works, is very specifically technically mindset. So that, thank you for saying that. And I will have to tell you about a new software system too that I've come across. I'll tell you about that after all of this.
Oh, good.
But today we have Kim on here. Kim is a professional organizer. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kim, and your organizing business?
Okay. So I am Kim Jones from Louisville, Kentucky. I have twins, boy, girl. They're 7. They just turned 7, Tori and Dylan. And when they were born, I was working full time in the consulting world. I had a team. I was totally chaotic. My twins were preemies, so they had health issues, and I felt like I had everything just like pulled out from underneath me, essentially. And then we moved on top of all of that. And that's where Lock and Key really came into fruition because I was drowning in all the boxes and I had no hands because I had a twin in each hand. So, and my husband was traveling, he was in Florida for months at a time. And I just would come home after a long day and see all these boxes. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And I couldn't find anyone local. The Midwest really wasn't kind of up to speed about what an organizer was at that time. It was before Marie Kondo and the home edit. So I found someone in New York and I was like, is this a thing? Can you help me unpack? And I just kind of picked their brain and they're like, it is, but we're in New York. So I did it on my own after I got some encouragement from them, which I'll always be so grateful for. And then I was like, well, if I can need this help, I'm sure I'm not the only one. And that's when it really came to life.
Oh my goodness. So I only have a 3-year-old, and my husband asks me all the time, when are we going to have another one? And I'm like, "Urgh." So I can't imagine having twins. Oh my gosh. So what was the what was the hardest thing about having twins?
Uh, like pretty much everything. I guess I don't know any different either because I don't have any other kids. So I think the hardest thing at first was the schedule. And I will say they were in the NICU for 6 weeks, which was a blessing in disguise because they had them on such a strict schedule. By the time they came home, it was like automated. And they had trained me on how to give a baby a bath because I had no clue and all the things. And so once we got both of them home, it was really just staying with the routine. But my daughter had a cleft palate, so she would take like an hour to an hour and a half to eat. So we would try to redo the schedule so my husband would get the longer feeding to short feeding, and just trying to get creative about that. And just total lack of sleep, I think, was the hardest thing, just feeling like a zombie and just kind of walking through life. But now that they're 7, it's so much easier.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait till my son gets to that point where I'm like, I don't need to constantly oversee you.
Yes. It's so much nicer. I mean, they are like each doing their own thing right now, and I don't have to worry about them like killing themselves or jumping down the stairs or doing something crazy.
If you hear my little munchkin, he just got home from preschool, so he may or may not make an appearance. Um,
No worries.
so, um, wow, that is really amazing that your situation, you found somebody who did this and you got that, push to start it on your own. So why start an organizing business? Why did it like, obviously you had, a natural instinct for it, but what was that real big reason of what pushed you to do it?
Yeah, so I was so sick of the boxes. So I sent my husband away to a guy's weekend, which he gladly obliged. And I sent the kids to my parents' house and I took an entire weekend and I unpacked and organized my entire house. And the feeling, I remember sitting down on Sunday night and I was so exhausted, I couldn't even drink a glass of wine, which really tells you like how tired I was. But I had this total like I was like at a Disney movie, like this aha, like I felt so good. Even though I was so tired, I was so happy and I felt so fulfilled and everything was in its place. And I just kept staring at my closet and was like, it's so pretty. And I just knew that I could do this for other people. And I knew then that I had a talent that I had basically been living with my entire life and never really understood it, and I always took it for granted. And the more I started talking to people, they're like, "I'm not organized, I can never get organized." So the more I started reading, the more I started researching, I was like, "This could be a really good way for me to use this talent that I have and that I'd never really gave myself credit for having."
Wow. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's felt like a Disney movie. And so all of us organizers always have a different experience on how we kind of came into it. So I love to hear that. And for all of our non-organizer listeners out there, all of us usually have some sort of different niche or different areas or things that we love to do. Many of you know that I love to really do the things other organizers hate doing. I love the paperwork. I love offices. I love the garage. I love all of that kind of stuff. Um, I'll do a pantry and a kitchen, but it's not my favorite. So what's your favorite place to organize, Kim?
So my favorite place is the closet. I tried to get my master's in fashion business administration because
Oh,
I wanted to get basically my MBA, but with a fashion merchandising specialty. And then I got scared and I never did it. But I've always had a passion for fashion. My grandma would always have her, like, she always was styled to the nines, and it was always a big influence on me. So even though I'm not like a really like trendy dresser, like I always will be following bloggers and I just love it, and just being surrounded by beautiful clothing and beautiful shoes just is always my happy place. So anytime there is a closet on the schedule, I will purposely put myself into it.
drop
I will be
everything. I'm gone.
yeah, I'm like, "I got meetings all day, we're gonna reschedule those because I want to be in this closet." And I'm just so happy, like, I will just be, like, smiling and dancing, and it just something about it just makes me, like, a totally different like, I'm just so happy, I just love it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, and a closet is probably on my low 3 that I like to do because, well, like, I'm a minimalist with my clothing in particular. So, I recently redid kind of our clothing situation and found out between all my shirts and all my pants and all my dresses, all my pieces of clothing that can go on a hanger, I have 50 because I used a whole box of 50 hangers. So I have 50
Oh,
pieces
I know too,
and I
yeah.
don't do seasonal clothes storage. I know that's a common thing for most people, but that's like all my clothes. And then I have a bin for the small stuff. And so when I go into closets, people always think that I'm just going to try and get them to where I'm at. And I'm like, no, no, it's going to take years if you want to get to that point because it took me years to get to that point. I have another team member who loves closets. So if anybody wants closets, I know many people who love to do closets way more than me I do. So, your specialty though, lock and key home specialty is concierge moving. Now,
Mhm.
Kim, can you tell us about concierge moving for those who are like, what in the world is that?
Yes. So it is a white glove touch to moving, but it is not one size fits all. So essentially, we can take someone through the entire cycle of a move. So we can start with the pre list, declutter, style their house before it goes on the market, go into packing, and also with the declutter, getting all their donations out, having people come and pick up their donations from charities in Louisville. And then we also do packing, but we do packing differently than a typical mover. So we kind of, at first, we're like, we're not sure if we want to do packing. There's a lot of risk to it. And then we started watching the movers do the packing and unpacking and seeing things broken. And as a control freak, I was like, we can do this better. So I just started diving into every single thing I could learn about how to pack. So we've taken a really like a luxury stance on packing. And I always tell people it doesn't matter if it's $5 or if it's $5,000 in value, we are going to pack it like it's priceless. So artwork, shoes in the closets, we will wrap each individual shoe, we stuff all the purses. We want your things to be as good, if not better, coming out of that box than they were going into the box. And then, a lot of people don't know all the things you need to think about when moving too. So we do all the logistics. If we need to have like a hallway service, we'll handle that. A cleaning lady, we'll have them come in. We are there day of move with the mover. We have partnerships with movers, so we work really closely with them, which is really nice because we know how they work, what they'll accept and what they won't accept. And we know all their team members by name at this point. So it's kind of like a big team. And I think it relaxes the clients too because there's no surprises. I know exactly what's going to happen, and we go into the day with a very good plan. And a lot of times the clients like this seems to be going fine, and they leave. And that I think that's great. Like go, we have people go get lunch, go grab a drink, and they come back and they're like, "How's it going?" And I just think that that's huge because life is short, and I think we all learned after COVID life is short, time is valuable, and people don't want to spend their time stressing out about a move and worrying about when the cleaning lady's coming. We will have every single thing laid out on a calendar from step A to step B, and it just really makes the process go so smooth and seamless. And people are kind of like, this wasn't that bad. Like, yeah, it's not bad. We do this every day. We know the ins and outs. And then we also do the full unpack and organize on the back end. So really, I always tell people like, go on vacation, enjoy, do what you want to do, and just come home, bring your pillow, and just make yourself at home. And we really try to just set their house up, not only like set it up, but set it up with a process and a theory. So where should this go? Where should this go in the kitchen? And make sure that everything is totally functional, buying products if needed. And they basically literally just walk into their home and can start living and don't have to worry about all the boxes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And all of our listeners out there, University Hospitals has done multiple studies, and there's this wonderful website that's talking about the top 5 most stressful life events, and moving is one of them. It is right behind death and divorce is moving. And
Yeah.
as someone who I myself have moved multiple times, and I've come up with my own system for myself personally, um, it is still stressful every time. It never gets any less stressful. And now I'm at the point in my life, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I'm sure there's some of your clients even that are like, I cannot physically do this either.
Yeah.
And so they literally need somebody to come and do all of this. What are some of the little touches that you do with your concierge moving, things that maybe some people don't think about?
There's a lot of things behind the scenes, and I don't know that people really even know that we're doing them. But one thing that makes like a huge difference during the day is that we always bring water, Gatorade, and snacks for the movers, and we lunch for the movers. And the reason for that is you don't want the movers to stop and go get Chinese, because when they stop and they go get Chinese or getting something greasy, then they get tired and they come back and they're sluggish. So we do not provide any any greasy food whatsoever. And I actually had a mover tell me that. I had a really close relationship with a mover who was kind of my mentor for a while. And he said, he's like, don't get pizza because watch in pizza and soft drinks, because watch them in the afternoon. They're tired and they're sluggish. So we get snacks like, all the fruits. We'll have fruits available. We'll have, we will have, of course, chips. But then we usually will do like a Jimmy John's lunch so that it's a little bit more of clean eating and that they don't feel like they're just completely exhausted and need a nap. It's also nice because they can just kind of sit down in the front yard, grab a bite for 10 minutes, and they're not disappearing for an hour. So it makes the day go by a lot quicker. And the other thing is that I get to the point, especially when I start from the very beginning, is that I know their household inside and out. So I can direct the movers on where things go. We have everything set up on what goes with what room. We have everything labeled. And I think that that itself goes a long way too, because the client doesn't need to be there for every single question a mover has, because it gets really overwhelming.
Right. Oh my goodness. So a lot of so the process from a client perspective for these concierge moves really is you are there and you do the packing and the decluttering, then you do the move, and then you do the unpacking and organizing all in one big fell swoop. What
Mhm.
wrapping my head around it, which this is something that Easy Life Organizing does not offer right now because I still can't quite wrap my head around it. But if somebody was like, "Hey, I would love to try doing concierge moving in my area," what is like the number one piece of advice you would give that organizer who is thinking about it?
Yeah, so I just had a call with an organizer in Colorado, and the number one topic was insurance.
Ooh.
Because you and I have a call with another organizer, and she's like, I love what you do, but it just seems very, she's like, you have risk written on your forehead. She's like, it's RISK all over your forehead. And it's 100% true. I'm taking on a ton of risk. We packed artwork for one family that was $250,000. And it was so scary. And I was, like I was shaking. I'm like, I don't know, like this is freaking me out. But I did all the research, talked to art dealers, talked to people who handle art and ship it across the country, and I got all the information so that now we're an expert and that we can safely say we do pack art and we do it to the top extent. But that was so nerve-wracking at first, and but knowing that you got the insurance just to cover your butt in case something happens, because things do happen. We had a key to a safe get lost a couple moves ago, and I told the mover specifically where to tape it, what to do, and somehow it got lost. So luckily that's not on my insurance, but things just happen. And I just like to be protected. So insurance is definitely number one if you're going to do it. And having a very, very smooth process and having a team that's trained to know what they're doing is huge.
Oh my gosh, yes, holy cow. So, speaking of teams, that's a great segue into doing these concierge moves. You have a big team. So, tell me a little bit about what your team, like how big your team is and how you manage your team for concierge moves specifically.
Yeah, so that's always tricky, I think, too, because it's based on when I'm busy. So my summer months are extremely busy because that's usually when people want to move. They usually want to move and get into the house before school starts. So really, our May through August, we're slammed. So I had a lot of college girls who had worked for me since they were in high school. So they had come back and worked for me for 4 summers this last summer, and I took them for granted because they were amazing. They were all really good friends. They all worked really well together, and I knew I had a solid team. So I will have like 10 to 12 people during the summer. They all have since graduated, gone and got internships. And this summer was a completely different ball game. It was a different market, it was a different team, and it didn't flow as well as it usually did. And it was not seamless, and I was a lot more hands-on. And it's just some people just are they don't like the constant packing, and it's fast paced and it's stressful. Like we have to have all this packed before the mover comes tomorrow. And I think the hiring process wasn't as good this summer, getting in the right people. And it's not to say that those people, didn't do a good job. It just, as a team, it wasn't flowing super well. So I actually pulled back the team, and we are down to 4 people right now. And during the winter, that's usually about right. But I have a core team of 4, and they all work super well together. They all have their own individual strengths, and we just really flow well together. And so once I get this core really built back up, then I can start expanding again for summer. But you've got to have the right people in the right place. And it's exhausting. A move is really tiring, and you want everything done very quickly in a very short time period. So we would have different people packing, and then we would have a fresh team come in and unpack.
Oh,
So
that is so smart. Yes,
mhm.
you're not making one small team like exhausted. They're like, okay, I'm totally done seeing your stuff over and over.
By the time and we will have, like, a couple of people dispersed in there on both ends, but by the time the moving truck comes, people are exhausted, especially on huge houses. We did one that was, like, 8,000 square feet, and by the moving truck came, they were, like, delirious. They're like, "We are exhausted. It's been, like, it's 5 days of very, hard work, boxing everything up." And by the time the moving truck come, they needed a break. So I have noticed that in the past, especially when we're super busy, getting a fresh team in, and even if I do the day of move, so usually we'll stop packing, then we'll have the move day, so the teams will get 2 days off, and I'll be on site for the move, and then we start the unpack. And so by the day one of the unpack, I'm exhausted. So I am usually like pulling myself out the morning of the unpack, and I have a team lead come in, and then I can kind of recoup, and then I come in, hit the ground running, and we try to just knock it out as quick as possible. But it's so exciting. You're kind of running on adrenaline. We usually have clients that will like go out of town, and they're coming back in town at a specific deadline. So we have to get everything done. And I know like we did one a while ago where the family was moving from Chicago, and they had small kids, and they didn't have the bandwidth to be there. So they're like, we're going to stay at the Airbnb in Chicago where we're comfortable. We're going to arrive Sunday afternoon at 4. And I'm like, great. Saturday afternoon at 3, I was running around like, I don't think this is going to happen. Like me and another team member, like we were there till like, I was there till 9 or 10 at night. I was back there at 7 o'clock in the morning, but it was so, so worth it because they were able to pull in the driveway, get their bags out, and just start living, especially with kids. The cribs were put together, the sheets were on, the pillows were there, everything was perfectly set up. And we even had groceries delivered, so all the groceries were put away. And they didn't need to do anything but unpack their bags, which we offered to do, but they're like, we've had a long drive. You can leave. We'll let ourselves in. Otherwise, I totally would have done that too. But it's such a great feeling that it doesn't matter how tired you are, it's so worth it. And seeing the people's like relief and seeing how happy they are to be in their new space set up, it's so worth it.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And you obviously have a passion for it. Oh my gosh. Um, my other question is, what's your favorite thing to do with your team? Do you guys do anything fun outside of constantly packing and unpacking people's houses?
I will say I'm not very good at that. My team leader is very, very good at trying to like get events. We've done a couple things. We went and made a signature candle for Lock and Key that we give as gifts.
So
So
cute.
that was super fun because we got to try all the different scents and put together the perfect scent so that it's a unique scent that you can't buy anywhere. It's proprietary to Lock and Key Home. And every time I look at the candle, I think about it. We did it on a Friday in a really busy season, but we blocked the day out. And then we all went and got lunch after. It was just a cool way to like sit down and like chat because you can't really chat when you're
Right.
working.
Oh my
And
gosh, yes.
yeah, so that was really fun. We just did a happy hour. That was really fun. But I definitely need to incorporate that a lot more
Um,
into the schedule because in the past where the college girls, they all were friends and they all went to the bars together after work. And I'm too old to be doing that. So it's like, have fun. And like sometimes I'd send money their way or give them, something, but I never really was involved in it. And so it's really fun to be involved and to have fun and to like just, giggle and talk about life and what people love.
Hey, no judgment here. I've got one who is recently graduated. I think this is her second year out of college, so she's still younger. No kids. She's got cats and a boyfriend. I got one who's older, and her kids are old enough to kind of watch themselves. So like they can just go out and do whatever. And I'm like, I got this 3-year-old. What's happening?
I know. Yes, I had to take my kids to like a meet and greet with the organizers in Louisville a few weeks ago, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I'm sorry, but it's either this or I can't come.
Right.
But yeah,
Oh my God. Can we talk about that? The sheer fact of like there's this age range from like 0 to I don't know, 10 maybe, 8, 9, somewhere around there where you're like, okay, well, I have to keep watching you, but I
mhm.
can't just stop my life. Like, how many times I've been told, like, oh my God, why is he so well behaved? What did you do to make your 3-year-old so well behaved in public? He just is forced to come with me everywhere and he's just used to this environment. Um, there was a week or two ago, we had the Mid Michigan Business Diversity Summit in Lansing. And so I went in the morning when my husband was watching my son, and I'm like, okay, it's my turn to take over watching because my husband works second. So I had to come back home. I had to pick him up, and I'm like, you're coming with me because I am loving this conference so much. And so I just took him to the conference with me, and he just sat there with me while I heard all these wonderful people talk about DE&I and got to meet business owners. They're like, this is just his life right now.
Yeah, and then you got to do what you got to do too. Like it's maybe not ideal, but it works.
Right. And I think more and more people are getting more used to that now. And that's becoming a more regular thing for female business owners specifically. Um, wow, there has been such an amazing amount of information in here. Now I know you do the concierge moving, but do you ever just strictly unpack or only pack up for people?
Yeah, we always say it's not one size fits all. Sometimes we just coordinate the day of move. And we're just there as kind of an asset or a resource. And sometimes we'll just go in and style a house, and people are like, "We can do it. We just want you to come in and kind of make it pretty, fluff the pillows, and be there for the photo shoot." We did that a few weeks ago, which I'm totally cool with. That's fun for me. So anything, someone, I would say, what is stressing you out the most, and let us help with you with that. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to touch anything. Sometimes people are like, I can handle this, but I do not want to pack one single box. And like, we got it. And what's stressing you out the most and what's your budget? And let's make the two of those fit. And if it doesn't fit, then we pull back services and we figure out what the best arrangement is to make you less stressed and make it work for your budget so that you're not stressed out about money on top of it because moving's also very expensive.
Oh my gosh, it really is. So,
Yeah.
for somebody who might be wanting to move on their own and is like, I'm just gonna get a U-Haul truck and I'm gonna box all this stuff up and I'm just gonna do it myself, which so many people do.
Mhm.
It is so much cheaper when you don't
Yes.
account for your own labor cost. What is your number one tip for somebody who plans to just move on their own, pack on their own?
I always say give yourself a schedule. So, if you're moving in a month and you only have Saturdays to do stuff, give yourself a schedule of what rooms you're going to pack each Saturday. Because what I see a lot of, and I'm guilty of this too, when I moved when I was like 25, I was like, thought I had all this time. And then it came down the night before the mover was getting there. And I just started throwing everything into a box. And I just didn't care at that point because I was sick of it. And everything, of course, in that box broke. Like like I didn't even care. I just threw it in there. And like knives were, who knows what was in there. So don't stress yourself out. Give yourself a schedule. Start packing the things you don't use daily, a month to 6 weeks in advance, and then slowly start to build up to the things you're using on a daily basis. Leave your kitchen things that you use every single day to very last, and then always have an open first box. So I always want to know exactly where my coffee pot is at all times. So it's the very last thing I will box. It was the very first thing I will unbox. Um, and if a client uses something every single day, if they have a vitamin they use every single day, or if they drink tea or coffee or whatever it may be, I always know exactly where that box is. I've got it highlighted and I've got it taped in bold colors, and I will not lose that box. So that I think is important, and always putting in the box hand wash, toilet paper, and a hand towel, because those
Ooh.
are the things you never have.
They are the things that you never have and you always need first once you get to the new house. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and then you're digging through every single box trying to find some toilet paper, and then you just go buy more because you give up. So, yes, always have a little unpack me first box, and it's a box of all the goodies, but it's different for every family.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it is very different for every family. I feel like if I were to do an unpack box for my son, the first thing that would need to be unpacked are either his cars or his dinos, like one of those two things. Because if not, we are having, or tablet. You know what? Tablet needs to be in that box because I would need to set him up for screen so I'm not going crazy the rest of the
Yes,
day. That would be
and
number one. Never
yeah,
mind.
yep. I don't even think my kids' tablets would get back to be put in their overnight bag and glued to them because they're gonna make you as happy as possible.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. So, uh, is there a time that you're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't think this is for me."
Yeah, I think I always have those times, and then I will go to a move and I just get the energy back in, and I'll see the moving truck and I just get excited. And I know that this is my passion. I love it. I can't walk away from it. But it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. The market right now is not super ideal for moving unless you're transferring or death and divorce, which is not ideal either. So, it definitely comes in ebbs and flows, but I think this is who I am, and I think this is what I was meant to be doing. And so I always say, I don't know if I'm naive or I'm just really stubborn, but I won't give up. And I just keep forging ahead and figure out what I can do and where I can go and what's the next step. But I mean, I've also taken on clients I shouldn't have, and I've gotten bit in the butt, and it makes you like really self-doubt and think that you're, not doing a good job, and they like, go off and it just wasn't a good fit. So being able to identify when to say no to those situations so I don't get myself in that predicament has been a huge learning curve as well.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's something that I think needs to be talked about more often is because I have it all the time. It's like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Like, what am I what am I doing wrong? It's all this self-doubt and imposter syndrome and everything. And so I think it's something that I want to bring up more because I do hear so many other people have all these same feelings and just probably as about as frequently as I do. And so I think it's really important for people to understand that if you are an organizer or another business owner, you're not alone.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's so hard. So another thing that I would love to talk about before I give you kind of a plug for you to just talk about anything that is coming up for you, something that you might want to promote, talk more about how people can get in connection with you specifically, is you do have a book too. So I wanted to touch on the book real quick as well. And so tell us more about this no nonsense home organizing plan book that you have
Yeah.
and what's it about and tell us why.
So I got an email on April Fool's Day, and it said possible authorship. And so your gut instinct is someone is totally like pranking me right now. And this isn't funny because on my vision board, I had write a book, but I had absolutely no clue how I was going to get there. So I was like, possible authorship. So I responded immediately because I was like, if someone's pranking me, I'm going along with it because I just want to know. And they responded immediately and they're like, oh my gosh, you responded so quickly. Like, is this something that you have been wanting to do? Or like, why did you respond so quick? And I was like, this is on my vision board. This is what I want to do. It's a goal of mine. I would love to learn more. So I basically had a a company reached out to me, a publisher reached out to me to write a book. They had the idea and the kind of the format, and I followed it and put all of my knowledge and tidbits into it. But I had to audition for it. So I had to do a ton of writing excerpts. And I'm not, I mean, I like to write, but I'm not like great at writing. Um, but I had to be. And so I had to audition for like a month. And it was really, really nerve-wracking because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm sure there's other organizers who have been doing this a lot longer, who have a lot more information to offer. But I just kept at it. And I finally got the acceptance, and it was just it's huge, and it's a dream come true, and it's still something that I like don't bring up because it still doesn't seem real. But it was a huge opportunity for me, and it got me a couple of speaking engagements, and it opened a lot of doors for me, and it's been a really exciting ride.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And yes, I probably would have been like, is this real? I
Yeah.
don't really know.
Yeah.
Uh, but sometimes the universe just will throw things into your lap and you're like, well, you can either ignore it and think it's fake or you can run with it and see.
Yeah.
And
And it's interesting too, because I was like, how on earth did you find me?
mhm.
Um, because they're growing and there's so many organizers. This is 2000, I think, right before the home edit really exploded. But they had a book and they had a couple other things. And I had just taken this master class on Instagram hashtags, and they found me from a hashtag. So
Oh,
yeah, I reached out to the girl who taught this class. And I was like, you are not going to believe this, but I just got a book deal from your hashtags. And I was like, I'm still in shock.
yes.
I still follow this girl, and I still like, I think she's my BFF. And she's like, who is this crazy lady? But she gave me so much information, and she was just starting out, and she just gave me so much information, and she gave me so much knowledge to be equipped to run with it. And I'm just so grateful. It's just so random.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. So I'm going to make sure that the link is in the show notes to this book. So if you'd like to buy this book of Kim's or see Kim's website and see everything else that Kim has to offer, you can see that in the show notes. But Kim, what is new? Is there any selfless plugs that you would like to put out there for the people, and how can they find you?
Yeah, so we are actually trying to take our concierge mood management to a more national level. So we are working with a lot of realtors across the country just to introduce them to the idea, because there's a lot of people out there doing it, but there's a lot of cities that it's not very known. So trying to get a little bit more of a national exposure and get our name out there, and build teams out there, or even educate and train other existing teams on how we do the process. That's kind of my goal for 2024. So we're working on that, which is really exciting. But how to find us is we're on Instagram under Lock and Key Home org. And I try to be pretty present on there with tips and tricks, and trying to keep people engaged, and learn, what we do for a daily basis, and why I love it so much. And it's truly like something, it's my passion. And when I say I get excited every single time that a moving truck shows up, I really do. And just kind of showing the process, and why we love what we do.
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. And before we sign off, I like to ask my guests all the time, what is currently cluttering your life? So, for those of you who have missed my episode last month, we talked about the 4 different types of clutter. So, I mean, there's always something crazy cluttering my life, but Kim, what is currently cluttering your life so that everybody out there understands that even organizers have clutter in their lives?
Yeah, so it's my office. Don't even work in there right now because I hate it. There's product everywhere. It's a total disarray. Amanda, who's my team lead, came in and organized it for me last year, but it was supposed to be my dining room, so it's a really dark, like almost like sexy vibe. And that's not what I want to be when I'm working. I need bright and airy and minimalistic. So I need to completely redo the whole design and the whole vibe. And until then, I'm not going in there. Um, It's the first thing I see when I walk in because it's to the right of my front door. It drives me insane. And I'm always like, I need to get to that. But I really need to have a good system for all of our product because we don't have a container store, an inventory system. And that's something I need to tackle head on. But that drives me nuts right now.
You know what? I'm so glad that I'm not the only organizer that has literally hired their team to do parts of their own home.
Multiple areas. Like I
Uh,
see it every day. I'm sick of it. Fix it.
it's like I don't have the time and I trust you. Just please do that for me so that I can still carry on with doing all this other stuff that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have time.
Oh, oh my gosh. I think my team has come in and done at least they've my office is part office, part bedroom. They've also done my basement and we've done my garage multiple times at this point because I feel like every single spring some big thing needs to change about it. Like
Yes. Yep.
last
Mine
time
every year.
last year it was this past spring was my fault because I was at the home and garden show and so now I have these big wood backdrop things that I made for the home and garden show that I'm like, well, now I need a spot to put these so I can reuse them next year.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Every single year, it's a continuation of something new.
Oh my god, and that's its own like podcast episode sometimes. Like how often do we all need to really keep ourselves organized? Because oh my god, this office needs it again. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Kim. And to everybody out there, please like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things, and follow us along for more organizing tips along the way.